opportunity to secretly audition for the upcoming Star Wars films. So hopefully someone at Disney is watching. Today I'm going to talk about seeking and seizing opportunities. I know that this is something you've heard of, but I'd like to use my examples about how I developed my careers in translation, writing, and nonprofit. And it was kind of unconventional, to say the least. So, I think we all are familiar with this phrase, opportunity knocks but once. I disagree completely, for a lot of reasons. First of all, opportunities are knocking all the time, I think. You just don't notice because you're not paying attention, or you assume that you hear something but it doesn't apply to you. You think, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough experience, I don't have the skills, I probably shouldn't apply for it, or that knock is not for me. So that's the first reason. Second reason, why wait for anybody to knock on your door? Go find the door and bang on them yourselves. No one's going to know you exist unless you apply to all these different jobs, or just call people and let them know you exist. That's how I got started in translation. This is 1998, I believe. I was 26 years old. I had just quit my job at NHK Johor Network. I was a TV director. And I quit the job before I secured my next job. Never, ever do that, by the way. Never quit a job before securing next month's rent. But I did. So, I wanted to focus on writing news scripts, news articles, because that was one of the 50 million things I had to do as a TV director for a bilingual news program. And I just wanted to focus on that. And I didn't have any connections in newspapers, so I just cold called a bunch of newspapers. That's me in 1998, just calling everybody I knew or anybody that could help me. And they all said, no, you're no good to us. Because at the age of 26, I was too old to start a new career, apparently, according to them. But I was too young to be considered experienced in anything. I had 3 or 4 years of experience after university, so it wasn't good enough. I also tried calling a lot of translation agencies because I've been translating professionally since I was 18, since first year of college. So I had, at that point, 8 years of experience translating as part of my job or as a part-time job, but that didn't qualify. It wasn't good enough. So they said, no, you're not good enough. So it was really frustrating. I really felt that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't know what to do. And then a friend of mine reminded me that Asahi Shimbun also had an English language newspaper. It was called the Asahi Evening News at the time. And so I said, yeah, give it a call. At this point, I was sick and tired of calling companies, as you can imagine. I thought I was going to get rejected. But I tried. I didn't give up. So I called them. I called their general number. Now remember, this is 1998. That's the kind of phone we had. There were no smartphones. You could not pick up a smartphone and say, hey Siri, where can I get a job as a writer? The closest headquarters of a English language newspaper is 30 minutes away. No, this is years, decades before that. So I had to actually get the phone number and actually talk to a person. I had to use my phone to make a phone call. Do you know what that's like? Young people out there. So I called the Asahi Shimbun's daily, I guess the general phone number. And I was so eager to get a job, I just said, I want to be an English language newspaper writer. I want to be an English language journalist. And the lady was like, what? There was an awkward silence. She was probably debating whether to call the police. Luckily, she did not. She didn't hang up or call the police. She said, let me transfer you to the international division. And she did. And this was where it's all luck and timing. The man who just happened to pick up the phone was an editor who desperately needed translators to fill up his page. So he was like, we don't need any writers, but can you translate? I was like, yes. At this point, I was willing to do anything I can to get my foot in the door. been translating news scripts for NHK for 3 years. I can do it. Even though I wasn't very confident. I was like, I can do it. And he said, okay. Well, why don't you send us a resume and a translation sample, and we'll get back to you. Now, when people say, we'll get back to you, that usually means no, right? And I was expecting nothing out of this. But the very next day, the man called me and said, so can we fax you an article now to translate? I was like, what? You're giving me a job? I'm getting paid to do this, really? After 200 rejections, I could not believe I actually got a job. And he wanted me to translate, start working that day. This is amazing. I didn't even care how much they were paying me. I didn't know what the rates were in the industry, I just said yes. And that one phone call, the last-ditch effort, was what led to a 14-year relationship with the Asahi Shimbun. It was a 14-year assignment with the Asahi Shimbun until I got laid off, due to economic reasons. But this is a great example of how you seek opportunities. If I hadn't made that phone call, if I hadn't looked up that general phone number, this career would have never happened. This 14-year career with Asahi Shimbun would have never happened. And because of this 14 years with the Asahi Shimbun, I was able to register with all the translation agencies that slammed the door in my face when I was 26. As if to say, ha-ha, I qualify now. So that was really nice. So in total now, I've been translating for a total of 26 years. That tells you how old I am. Don't do the calculations. So that's the example of seeking opportunities. Don't give up. Go searching for the right doors. Bang on them persistently. Don't give up. Because you never know which one is the one that's going to get you in the door. That's all you need is one foot in the door. Now the next story is about making use of all the opportunities, seizing the opportunities. My connection at the Asahi Evening News led to my next job at the Asahi Weekly, which is an English language newspaper. Well, it's bilingual, actually, for Japanese people studying English. Now, one of my colleagues at the Asahi Evening News was transferred to the Asahi Weekly, and she remembered that I moved to New York in 1999. And when they were looking for someone who had experience living in Tokyo and New York, she emailed me out of the blue. Now, I was petrified of her, actually. She was a scary colleague. I didn't know if I wanted to read the email, but I did. And I didn't know if I wanted to work with her because she was very strict. She was very strict, but I was like, okay. So instead of writing one article, I suggested ideas for 7 different articles I could write about. 7 topics I thought the readers might be interested in. Cultural differences between Japan and the States, the work environment, the differences in the work environment. And she said, wow, these are great ideas. Do you want to write a monthly column? And again, I was like, really? That can happen? Great, I'll do it. And that's what led to this column. As you can see, it's called Totsugeki Manhattan. Actually, the quality is not very good. It's called Totsugeki Manhattan Life, the crazy life of Manhattan. And I wrote about the differences I saw in society, in the office, between New York and Tokyo. I wrote this every month for about 2 years. And it came with illustrations. It was a full-page thing with illustrations. It was a lot of fun. It got a lot of responses from readers. I got to write about interesting topics like humor, how Americans use humor in emergency situations. For example, there was a blackout in 2004, a power outage. I was freaking out. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? But all my colleagues and everybody on the street was like, oh, let's drink some beer, man, it's going to melt. Let's eat all the ice cream in the fridge, because without electricity, it's going to melt. And people are just partying out in the streets. So that was funny, so I wrote about that. Now, I knew that this was going to come to an end. I couldn't do this forever. They told me it was a 2-year contract. But I wanted to make sure that I continued writing for the Asahi Weekly. So this is where we talk about seizing opportunities. In order to keep this going, I just wrote about anything that came to mind. Whenever I saw something interesting happening in New York City, I would pitch the idea to my editors, and I would write about it. things like Japanese people using Japanese culture and Japanese arts in New York City and introducing them to Americans in unconventional methods. Another thing I wrote about the Star Wars convention right before Episode 3 came out. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as you can tell. And I was going to go to the convention anyway, but I needed money to go to Indianapolis, where it's held. So I needed airfare, I needed hotel fees. And I was like, well, how can I get someone to pay for this? I don't want to pay for it myself, although it was worth it. So I pitched the idea to the editor, saying, hey, Star Wars is a global phenomenon. I think our readers need to know. In order to be a global citizen, you have to know Star Wars. You have to know the famous quotes and the lines from the movie, or else you can't make friends. Because this is a global phenomenon, you have to know this. The readers have to know about Star Wars. That's how I pitched the idea. And they said, oh, okay, sure. And the 2 articles I wrote, this one and this one. The 2 articles and 3 pictures that I provided them with ended up paying for all the travel costs, the airfare and the hotel. So good. It also gave me a press pass that got me past the 200 fans who were lining up for 24 hours. Poor little fellas. I just walked in with my press card and said, hey, let me in. I felt bad. I mean, I'm a true fan, so I think I deserved it, but still, I felt bad. So that was great. First of all, the convention introduced me to the art, the custom, the culture, Star Wars costuming. I interviewed a lot of people who were in Stormtrooper and Darth Vader outfits, and I realized they do this for charity. They do this for fun. They collect money. They pose for pictures with other fans, and they collect money and donate it to charity. I thought it was a great thing. So when Episode 3 was about to open, I joined the many fans who were dressed up in characters in front of the movie theaters and collected money. And I did this in this costume. And yeah, we raised them a lot of money. It was great. And again, I told my editor about this. Hey, look at the fun thing I'm doing. And she asked me, I didn't have to pitch it, she asked me to write this article about weird hobbies. So, you know, one thing leads to another. So another thing, so this is an article I wrote about Hawaii. I was traveling to Hawaii to see my friends. And I thought, hey, maybe I can get the Asahi Weekly to pay for it. So I pitched a couple of ideas to my editors. I could write about this, this, and this. We ended up turning this into a Hawaii feature. I think there were about 6 pages of it. And it coincided with the timing of a famous Hawaiian artist who was visiting Japan. So it's, again, pure luck. But if I hadn't mentioned it, they wouldn't have let me do it. So it's a combination of luck, timing, but also footwork. You have to let them know that you're doing these things. What else did I end up writing for here? So this is the Hawaii article about quilting, this Japanese woman who does beautiful quilts. This is actually another series that I proposed. Writing standalone articles can be a little bit exhausting, so I prefer to have a one-year contract to write columns. This is another column that I offered to do. So this is another New York feature. I gave them a lot of ideas about interesting things happening in New York City. Well, interesting things from a Japanese point of view. And they made a feature out of it. So what could have ended as a one-assignment deal turned into a 2-decade-long career. I still write for the Asahi Weekly today. The latest one is this, about the plight of refugees in Japan. This came out in March. So the one article assignment turned into a 100-plus article deal. I've written, since 1999, I've written more than 100 articles. And they've been really gratifying, really rewarding. I've gotten to talk to a lot of interesting people. So that was the added bonus article. Now, when I talk about seizing opportunities, the Asahi Weekly assignment kind of dropped into my lap. It was an opportunity that I kind of didn't earn. It just kind of dropped into my lap. But I made the most of it by pitching articles constantly and doing a good job, never missing deadlines. always doing whatever they need me to do. So that was the same principle I applied when I started volunteering for the New York Asian Women's Center. Now this is a nonprofit organization in New York that assists victims, survivors actually, of domestic violence. They also now assist trafficking survivors as well. I started as a volunteer, and after an intense training, I was a hotline volunteer once a month. That was the minimum requirement. But I did so much more. I looked at what needed to be done. We needed outreach and PR materials in Japanese and English, so I offered to make them. I even took writing courses, public relations writing courses at NYU, so I could contribute more. I was constantly on Craigslist collecting free items for the shelters with my trusty little suitcase. That's why this is here. I would collect donations of free clothing, children's books, and other things from the internet, Craigslist. All over Manhattan, I would drag this suitcase and bring it to our office. The people living in our shelters, we call them shelter clients. The shelter clients called me the donation lady. They had no idea that I was a volunteer, or that my job, that this was not my job, but that's what I was known for. And by, I think, the end of 1999, I had punched in 50 hours a week, 50 hours a month of volunteer work, because I was writing the monthly volunteer newsletter as well, and doing a lot of other work that wasn't asked of me, but if I saw a need, I got it done. So all this work culminated in getting an award from the New York City mayor, which was very unexpected. Obviously I wasn't doing it for an award. It was very nice. It felt nice to be recognized. So one thing to learn from this, is somebody is always watching. You don't do it because somebody's watching, but whenever you have an opportunity, give it your best. Why wouldn't you give it your best? Someone's always watching, someone will always recognize it, someone will always appreciate it, and that will lead to the next opportunity. After I got this award, the agency offered me jobs as a part-time PR officer, which was a position that didn't even exist. They kind of made it for me, because I was doing a lot of PR work anyways. They hired me as a part-time fundraising assistant, and eventually a full-time volunteer coordinator. And it was the most rewarding 5 years of my life. I continued working there until I came back to Tokyo in 2005. So now, I'm back in Tokyo. Coincidentally, all of this experience I thought would be completely irrelevant to teaching. I'm a university teacher now, Monday through Friday. I translate and write on the weekends. I never thought that all this experience would come in handy as a teacher, but it does. I teach media studies, I teach translation skills, I teach intercultural communications, all because of all these quirky things that I just did because I wanted to do them. So whatever you do, don't ever doubt yourself. Don't ever doubt whether this is going to come in handy or whether this is going to pay off. Just do what you believe in, because I think that's the most important thing in life. Now, back in 1998, when I was 26, and all the doors were being slammed in my face, I never thought that 20 years later, almost 20 years later, I would have 26 years of experience as a translator, more than 20 years as a writer, and that I'd be teaching, that I'd be talking here at a TEDx talk, at a university that I actually wanted to go to as an undergrad. So, life is a great cycle. Never give up, and never keep reaching for the stars. Thank you very much.